Why intelligent people stop listening. Attention, ideology, and the collapse of conversations. In brief, we've all watched someone stop listening. The moment a conversation touches identity, history, or belonging, the argument disappears and something else takes over. Why does this happen even among highly intelligent people? At least in the conventional sense. Beginning with a real exchange about justice and historical harm, this video examines what shuts attention down, how inherited conditioning shapes what we hear, and why cognitive sharpness alone does not guarantee understanding. It explores the difference between self-enclosure and genuine stupidity, the role of ideology in freezing insight, and the fragile institutions built from moments of clarity that cannot be permanently preserved. It asks a quieter question beneath argument itself. What would it mean to listen without the background speaking first? Section 1. A comment and a reply. It began with a post about land, history, and justice. The kind of post that appears on social media every day, where enormous questions are compressed into a few sentences and launched into a current that moves faster than thought. The comment thread. The worst solution is to go back to an arbitrary point in history, claim rights that existed then, and completely ignore the fact that time has moved on. Present problems require present-day solutions that work for everyone, not just for communities. If harms were never resolved, the solution is to resolve them without creating new harms for others. Reconciliation is not true reconciliation if it amounts to reversal. The reply came quickly. My grandma is still alive and she lost her land at 8 years old. It's not ancient history. Stop with this. The reply did not engage the argument. It offered pain instead of reasoning, biography instead of principle. And yet, it is one of the most common forms of response in any public conversation touching identity, history, or belonging. The easy conclusion is that the woman was being irrational or emotional or inattentive. And in a narrow sense, she was. She did not engage the argument on its own terms. But the more interesting question is why? And the answer to that question opens into something much larger than a social media exchange. Section 2. What stupidity actually is. The first reaction to a response like hers is almost automatic. How can someone be so shallow, so lazy, so unwilling to think? The thought arrives before any analysis. A flash of contempt quickly followed if one is honest by something more uncomfortable. Because the contempt is easy, the examination is harder. What looks like stupidity rarely is what it appears to be. It needs to be separated from what it is not before it can mean anything useful. It is not the absence of information. A person who has never encountered an idea is uninformed, a neutral condition and a fixable one. It is not low cognitive capacity caused by biology or neurological disorder. People with such limitations deserve empathy and support, not a label that assigns them fault for what they did not choose. There is an older word worth recovering, idiocy, from the Greek idios, one's own. The idiotes was a person enclosed in their own private world, withdrawn from genuine participation in shared discourse. Not unintelligent necessarily, simply self-enclosed, filtering everything through what is already known, already felt, already decided. The woman who replied about her grandmother was not unintelligent. She was in that moment inside her own, her inherited wound, her community's pain, her identity's demand for acknowledgement. Her attention was captured before the argument could reach it. Stupidity is something adjacent but distinct. It is seeing the enclosure and not walking away from it. It is glimpsing truth and rejecting it, not from inability, but from loyalty to a tribe, an ideology, a promise, a vow, an identity. The loyalty feels meaningful. Measured against what was glimpsed and turned away from, it is not. That gap between felt meaning and actual meaning is where stupidity lives. The two are deeply related. Stupidity is self-defeating precisely because it returns the person to the very enclosure they briefly escaped. The seeing that could have opened something instead becomes another layer of the closed system. Which is why most of what looks like stupidity is actually idiocy. Self-enclosure without any glimpse of the outside. And why true stupidity in this sense is rarer than it appears. It requires enough light to have entered first. We cannot know which was true of the woman who replied. We do not know whether she glimpsed the argument and turned away, or whether the wound simply closed the door before anything could enter. That distinction matters, and the essay or this video will not pretend to make it where it cannot. We'll pick up section 3 next time.